What is up, everybody? Matt Geary here from Geek Pride, and I have a special piece for you for this May the 4th. It's entitled Rogue One, hashtag Better Than Empire. Now, first up, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen Rogue One yet. This might ruin it for you, as I will be going into it in some depth, so you have been warned. So as the title of this piece implies, I kinda liked Rogue One, like a lot. To the point where I have even toppled my favourite Star Wars film of all time, Empire Strikes Back, and replaced it with Rogue One, conferring it simultaneously with the accolade of Best Star Wars Film Ever. Now I will let you nerds take that in. Finished raging yet? Okay, I'll give you some more time. A lot of keyboards and phone screens being furiously tapped away at this moment in time, no doubt. Maybe if I give you my list of Star Wars films so far, does that help? So we got Rogue One, obviously at number 1. Empire Strikes Back, formerly number 1 but now at number 2. Return of the Jedi for number 3. A New Hope. Number 4, The Force Awakens, and number 5, Attack of the Clones, number 6, Revenge of the Sith, number 7, and A Phantom Menace, number 8. Bless for me, bless for you, bless for everybody in the room. Okay, so I'd best explain myself. Now first off, let me caveat the above by saying I love Star Wars, always have done, from going to watch them with my dad when I was but a nipper to growing up with the new incarnations and beyond. Okay, it has been a bumpy ride, and at times the prequels have been widely lambasted by a lot of my peers, but as much as certain characters, Jar Jar Binks and young Anakin, are possibly some of the most annoying creations ever, I still enjoyed the films, with some of the lightsaber battles being the best in the franchise and Darth Maul being one of the coolest bad guys. This being said, the prequels had a lot wrong with them. An over-reliance on CGI, plot holes, contradictions of story arc, midichlorians, and so despite not hating them, I didn't love them either. They filled a hole though, and I still have fond memories of going to see them with my family and friends, and in fact, I can remember specifically who I was with and where I was for each movie. Despite their lower status on my list, they aren't, in my mind, forgettable moments of my life. Better Than Empire and A Force Awakens at number 5? Explain yourself. Don't get me wrong, it was a hard decision to make, and I did love Force Awakens, as it brought us back to the nostalgic feel of the original films, but the issue is I preferred the older trilogy and feel that as much as A Force Awakens has brought us back to the golden age, it is, at its heart, just a retelling of A New Hope, replete with our beloved heroes 32 years on, robot chasing Death Sphere, trench fight, old wise man and farm boy girl looking for answers, enlightenment, and their parents. Therefore I had no option but to place it behind A New Hope. As for The Empire Strikes Back, well, you have to understand how much I still love that film. It was my all-time favourite sci-fi movie for a long time, and still was until last year, incorporating everything I love about a good war film. Epic battles, fights against the odds, and a dash of humour and tragedy. When someone talked to me about Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back was the first film I thought of, and when I played with the toys as a kid, it was always my AT-AT versus my brother's Snowspeeder. There was no competition, and continued to have no competition until last year, to the point that I had bid on a Hoth diorama at a charity auction, Dinner with the Stars, for a pretty penny, and got it signed by Brian Johnson. This artifact now resides pride of place in my man cave. Well, what about Rogue One then? Well, I admit that Rogue One, when it was announced, did not overly ping my radar. In my mind, it was just filler, something to keep us sweet while we waited for episode 8, and so not overly worth a lot of thought. Sure, I'll go and watch it, and I'm sure I'll like it, it'll be okay good, but I can't see it being any more than its intent, a pre-show for the next full Star Wars. But man, was I wrong. 3 screenings later, and I still blows my mind. Rogue One is at its heart a war film, akin to The Dirty Dozen, The Devil's Brigade, A Bridge Too Far, or even Kelly's Heroes. It's about an inferior and fractious ragtag outfit taking on the might of an overwhelming force with little or no chance of success. Not a major change from other Star Wars films you might say, but Rogue One differs, nay diverges from its predecessors, is its lack of Jedi/minimal use of Force powers and its more adult, darker and even morally grey direction. No longer is it black and white, light versus dark, good versus evil, but a morass of moral ambiguity that for some may be slightly uncomfortable. Sure, the Empire is still the Empire, and it has done and will do horrible things in the name of galactic conquest and stability, but the rebels are shown for the first time as not being as white either. Crimes are committed, assassinations carried out, hard moral choices made, and it is very apparent that the only thing keeping them from succumbing to the guilt of their actions is the hate they have for the Empire and the zealous verve they have for their cause. Added to this darker edge was a sense that the characters in the film were not going to make it. They aren't in any of the other films, and so it only stands to reason that they will be popped off, but I personally felt slightly nervous when watching, with a sense of impending doom hanging over my emotions as each minute ticked on. On top of this, the sheer amount of lip service to the Holy Trilogy was just nerdvana, including, in no particular order, the following: Senator Organa, Mon Mothma, Pew Pew, Sentry Guard, Pew 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 Pew, Princess Leia, Grand Moff Tarkin, Darth Vader, Commander with Beard, Jan Dondona, Red Leader, Gold Leader, C-3PO, R2-D2, the Cantuna Dudes, Pondo Baba, and the other guy who I can't remember, and the fate of Red 5. All in all, everything I wanted in a Star Wars film was there. Epic land battle and space battles? Check. Nostalgia? Check. Darth Vader kicking ass? Check. Darker feel and bittersweet ending? Check. Obviously, a lot of people don't agree with me, maybe some of you who are reading this now, but it seems to me that the current arguments towards Rogue One are rather pernickety and not something I can overly accept, including the CGI, the acting, the plot, and the characters. Now, don't get me wrong, the CGI isn't perfect, though it is rather impressive. The acting isn't Oscar-winning, the plot does have holes, and the characters could have done with a bit more development, but, and this is my issue, compare it with the other films, and in particular the Holy Trilogy, and clear your mind of nostalgic bias. Was it any different? Yes, Matt, it was. No, it wasn't, Angry Geek. Search your feelings. You know this to be true. It is my humble opinion that the human condition, especially in us geeks, is one that tends to fixate on nostalgia, memories of the past and things that we grew up with, defending them with vigour, zeal and loyalty, and vigorously seeing off anything that may usurp them, even if this means contradiction and selective memory. Think of the member berries in South Park. Member. This is the very reason I think people won't say Rogue One is the best Star Wars film, and why some might even have it trailing down at the bottom of the table with the rest of the prequels. Steve. They are adults now, and their brains are more critical, more analytical, more mistrusting. As a kid, you watched the original Star Wars films with awe. There was no subtext, there was no care about acting, graphics, effects, or the fact that a bunch of teddy bears just destroyed an entire legion of stormtroopers. It was just a story and getting caught up in it, and the thought that maybe, just maybe, you could be a fighter pilot, or a Jedi, or even Darth Vader. The thing is, this is not a symptom of just my generation, but the generation that grew up with the prequels, and no doubt the current generation who will grow up with the sequels. Now, for example, many moons ago, while I was in university, I used to teach kids computers at a summer scheme in Belfast, so ages between 4 and 13. Now, this was in and around the time the prequel Star Wars films were coming out, and so, unsurprisingly, when we got to any downtime, the conversation and the games we played generally revolved around them. Now, having grown up with the older films, I was interested in what they thought of them compared to the new ones. But I was surprised to note that many hadn't even seen the originals, and the ones had didn't really rate them, being more interested in the Roger, robots, and Darth Maul and the big CGI battles. In their mind, they were presented with a childish spectacle, and they chose what any kid would have chose in their place. The one with the most things exploding and the most elaborate fights. If you were to stand the old trilogy up against some of the new films and ask kids which ones they preferred, I'm pretty confident the latter would win out a lot of the time. Now, in one of our podcasts, the above argument did not hold very much water with some of my colleagues. The counter-argument being that, as more intelligent types, we can differentiate between childish nostalgia and reality, casting aside childish things for a more sophisticated view on what these films are really like. Now, granted, I can say there are things I grew up watching, playing, liking that I don't anymore, but equally there are also a lot of things that I will always like, nay prefer, despite being inferior compared to today's counterparts. Why? Because that's how we are programmed. And I'm not saying there is anything wrong with that. Nostalgia is very important, and it feels good to harken back to days past and how things used to be better. Remember? And I'm not saying there is anything wrong with that. Nostalgia is very important, and it feels good to harken back to days past and how things used to be. But rubbishing a film or a set of films just so it fits in with your views on pop culture and the current clique just seems counterproductive to me. You may think that Empire or Jedi, or even if you're younger, Revenge is better than Rogue One, but that doesn't make it a bad film. And all being said and done, balancing everything up fairly and equally, and for the time being, I can honestly say that Rogue One is my favourite Star Wars film, and therefore better than Empire. I am sure that after that assault on your childhood that many will disagree. So if you do, or if you agree, let us know in the comments below, and as always, play nice, no one likes that guy, and please give this video or article or wherever it is a thumbs up and a bit of a share, get some banter going, and remember, I am one with the Force is with me. I am one with the Force is with me. I am one with the Force is with me.